Kia ora team, welcome to Test That Theory, where we put everyday theories to the test. And today we're going to talk about hand washing because as the mother of two young children, this is pretty well a daily battle in our household. And we happen to be in the middle of a pandemic as well, and it's been recommended that we all wear face masks in public and that we also wash our hands for at least 20 seconds in warm soapy water.
Do we need to wash our hands?
Now, we have actually done this experiment before in my whānau, and so we're going to turn to a young Miss Millie who is going to tell us what she thinks we should do with hand washing. Just a heads up that before we filmed this video, somebody decided they were going to cut their own fringe. Alright, so this experiment, do you know what the theory is?
No.
No, is that you have to wash your hands before you eat. Do you know that theory?
Yep.
So what do you think the answer is?
Wash your hands.
You do have to wash your hands before you eat. Alright, well we're going to try and prove it, okay?
Yep.
Okay, now that we know that we're going to try and prove that we need to wash our hands, particularly before we eat, we can now come up with our plan. For our equipment, we had 3 containers with 3 lids, some fresh bread, some sticky notes and a pen. I also recommend some tongs and to also have some soap and a clean tea towel handy for when we wash our hands. It's super important that we try not to cross-contaminate, so having everything as clean as possible is really important. So let's show you what we did. Our plan was to take the pieces of bread out of the packet with tongs, and the first one I gave to Georgia to rub her hands all over it, and this was before she'd washed her hands. We placed it inside the first container. We then went to the sink and washed her hands with soap for 20 seconds and made sure that Georgia dried her hands well with a clean tea towel. When we returned to the table, Georgia wiped her hands on another piece of bread and we placed this in the second container. And then finally, we placed an untouched piece of bread into the third container. Now this one, that was our control. Don't worry, if you're unsure about any of the words that I've just used, check out our website and it will explain everything you need to know there. As you saw in the video, I used the sticky notes and the pen to label my containers so I knew which one was which. And from there, it was really just a wait and see what happens.
And so we waited. And we waited. And then we waited some more. Until finally...
Okay, we weren't quite as excited as Harry, but still, it was a while to wait. We now have part 3 of our experiment, which is our results.
Ew! Yeah, pretty gross. We'll look at our control first. This one being our untouched bread, and this is about the amount of mold you could expect on 13-day-old bread. And then we're going to move to our washed hands, and here you can see the green mold is more developed than the untouched bread. We can probably say that there was some transfer of germs even though the hands were newly washed. And then we've got our unwashed hands. You can see the green mold is far more developed than the other pieces of bread, and we also have some spores here. We can definitely say that there's a lot more going on here than on other pieces of bread. So if that doesn't show you how yucky unwashed hands are, I don't know what will. I looked into this further and found this great video which explains that viruses are surrounded by a sheath of protein and lipid fat. When we wash our hands with soap and water, the soap is attracted to the lipids that surround the virus and can rip them apart. And then when we use water, it washes away any remaining virus material. And the longer that we wash, the more effective this ripping apart action is.
If you thought that was a cool conclusion, make sure you like this video. Kaupai team, we can now conclude our experiment and we have proven that you do need to wash your hands, particularly before you eat, because all those grubby little bugs could end up going into your mouth and potentially making you sick. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. I also just want to mention that we're big fans of Mark Rober in this house, and if you're not sure who that is, there is a link to one of his videos in the description below. In this video, Mark uses powder to show us how easy it is to transfer germs from our hands onto surfaces and beyond. And he does this in a classroom environment, so it's a really great video for kids. Cool, so in our next video, Alfred is going to help me investigate something called density. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page to be notified as soon as it's posted. And don't forget that if you have a theory that you would like us to investigate, comment below and we'll have a look and see if we can give it a go. That's it for this theory. Good to see you, team. Haere rā.